22.
It's your morning addiction.
Some of these commercial driver's license schools, some of them don't even have a curriculum.
Wake Up Missouri with Stephanie Bell, the Zimmer News Team.
I guess Hakeem is upset that gas prices are the lowest it's been in 5 years.
And now introducing your host, Randy Tobler.
Nobody says that. These people are crazy. I'm telling you, they're crazy.
Well, that was one of the moments that caught a lot of attention last night at the first State of the Union speech for Donald Trump in this second term. Last year's speech was not called the State of the Union. This was properly the State of the Union. Very interesting. One of several moments where the Democrats did not stand. He called them out for it. In what some have said was one of his best speeches. Others have said another moment of polarization. We'll be breaking that down and getting commentary this morning. Mark Alford, Congressman Alford, will join us a little bit later in the program at 8:08. And it was an interesting speech, Stephanie Bell. What do you think? What's your reaction?
I think a lot of our predictions came true. I think it was more measured.
Yep.
It was long. We know that. It set a record. I think it was great.
Yeah, I mean, I thought he, for the most part, did stay on prompter. I thought did pretty good. A lot of storytelling going on. I mean, when he brought the USA hockey team into the, usually sort of,
they
that
stole the show.
Yeah, that upper ring there. Is that part of the press box, John? I think, isn't that where some of the press normally sit up there? Like in the high, nosebleed seats. And, man, when they came out, it just, the applause didn't stop. It was really remarkable. And then when he gave or he's going to give the the Presidential Medal of Freedom to Holbrook, right? Which was amazing. The guy, and you could tell Holbrook I think he got pretty emotional. You could tell it really, really touched him when that was announced. I didn't know if he knew that was coming. But several moments where he gave the Purple Heart to, I think, another gentleman, the guy that was shot, the National Guardsman that was shot in D.C. The day before Thanksgiving. It was amazing to see him mostly recovered. He was not verbal. His head was covered with a cap, so I imagine he's still having some, recovery issues there. But, wow, that was high-impact stuff. High-impact stuff. Your comments are welcome, 573-874-9390. And, again, just a remarkable speech. And I think him calling out the Democrats for not wanting to stand when I thought everyone, saw it. This was a moment. They didn't stand when the Zarutska thing, when he talked about Irina Zarutska, the woman who was killed in that South Carolina, that terrible incident where she was coming home from working at a pizza parlor and got her throat slashed by a hardened, recalcitrant criminal. Reminded me of, what we talked about yesterday about how too many of these people are out on the street. So, big moment. And then I think Spanberger actually did a pretty good job in the response, as good as can be done there. She spoke from Williamsburg there, I think, in the what do they call it, the House of Commons, I think, in Virginia. But an interesting speech. Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib were there, shouting out stuff. Various things have been said as to what she was saying when he was talking about the Somali fraud incident up in Minnesota. And that was an interesting back and forth. And Al Green got taken out early again. I mean, that's the second year in a row. Right, he's making a habit of that. Locally, we have a cold case that was solved. Well, the guy, I guess we can say it's solved. He's been captured in South Carolina and we brought back from a murder on Mizzou campus in 2000. Brian Hauswirth will join us a little later on that. So it was an interesting one. Did you stay up for the whole thing?
No.
Drake, were you up for the whole thing?
Fell asleep.
Sorry, I got to press every button on the board.
Were you there for the whole thing? No?
No, I wasn't. You want to know where I was?
Yeah, I know where you were. But
you know everyone. Where I was.
Tell everyone. Yeah, you were pretty pumped this morning.
I haven't been to a Mizzou basketball game and been excited the next day.
Yeah?
Yesterday, I had an experience like no other, to say the least. It was a blast, and it was just a mess.
It was cool.
Awesome.
You said you went to the game with your granddad, huh?
Yeah, so
cool.
Me and my grandpa, we like to go to as many sporting events as possible. last year we had the Alabama game, which we won, which was a really big upset. We had this. I did make them scared a little bit. So
How's that?
And there a lot of things culminated in this game, I got to say. I realized I was old. I'm getting older because I drank an entire soda and ate a cheeseburger in the span of like 2 minutes.
What's wrong with that?
Well, that caused me to projectile vomit in Mizzou Arena.
Thanks for sharing.
Gross.
You know, I feel like that's a rite of passage, though. As a college kid, everyone throws up at least once in a Mizzou Arena, Faro Field. Like, that's just something that happens. But I got to put that in the history books, and I saw the highlights later of the presidential speech and all that. Which, did you see all the controversy about Trump joking about having to invite the women's hockey team after, like, on the phone with the men's hockey team? Did you see any of that?
I heard about it. I didn't see it, but he made, I guess, some kind of a little offhanded joke. But he wants them to be there, but they can't just charter a plane like the guys, right? They take commercial airlines, so it was hard for them to get there. That wasn't why they weren't there at the State of the Union. They're going to be coming to the White House.
Yeah, I've just seen a lot of liberals online just lose their mind over it. But I mean, it's guy talk. I mean, they just won a gold in the Olympics. Come on.
I know. And I was so proud of the women. I mean, I thought, my gosh, if nothing else happens in the Olympics, how cool is that the women hockey team won? And then when the men doubled down on it and both of them won, when's the last time? I don't know. When's the last time? I don't think America's ever won 2 golds on hockey, but when's the last time the same country won 2 golds? I think it's happened before, but well, maybe it hasn't. I don't know, but that was amazing.
Good point.
So what, the left was going crazy? Was it sort of a feminist thing? Was that the deal?
Yeah, it's like misogynistic that he said that he had to invite them. He didn't have to invite them. He just wanted to make a joke to,
Yeah, and I heard Portnoy from Barstool Sports say, yeah, well, so maybe it was a poorly planned joke, but whatever. He does that kind of thing now and then. He just does that to just, stir things up a little bit. That's Trump. But he did. I was proud of him that he actually stayed mostly on script. It was just a really long script. He got a little Reagan-esque at the end. And whether it's going to provide a bump in the polls, who knows? Whether it'll be a long-lasting bump, who knows? It probably won't be. They tend not to be. But, no, it was good. I think he hit a lot of the high points. I took some notes here. He talked about AI data centers self-generating their power so that the people aren't burdened with that, because we've talked about that before, how there's been that discussion, generate their own power plants. And he implied that if they have excess power, that could provide more power to the grid, therefore more supply. And if they've already taken care of their own demand, maybe it lowers everyone's prices. Optimistic, but, could be on the horizon. Promoted Congress to codify the ban on corporations buying up single-family homes. He had a gal there who had applied for 13 home loans or something, or 13, I guess, contracts she'd put in on homes and couldn't get them because big corporations will buy them for cash, come out and scoop them up and buy them and then put them up for rent. This was interesting, a 401k style match. This was an interesting one. I don't know if he can do this, but if I heard it right, it was for those who don't have a 401k, roughly 50%, he said, of people who are working for other people, for employees, but who don't have a 401k, deferred tax retirement plan, that somehow there'd be a similar kind of a plan that they could do, and the government would match up to $1,000 a year for those without an employer-sponsored plan. I heard that, and I thought, wow, isn't that going to take some kind of action from Congress? John, did you hear that?
Yeah, I did hear that, but it's Donald Trump, He doesn't wait for Congress.
Mm-hmm. He makes Obama's pen and a phone look like nothing, right? He called out the Somali corruption for fleecing the taxpayers. That's when Omar and Rashida Tlaib got. I was trying to lip read, and I think that Omar said something about like you killed Americans or you killed them, something like that. I don't know. I still can't. Others were saying that she said an expletive not deleted, but I don't think I saw that. But War on Fraud initiative with J.D. Vance in charge, saying that he said the deficit could be eliminated if we eliminated all of the fraud for the social programs like happened in Minnesota. He made that comment because it's happening all across the 50 states. Or if you're Barack Obama, 51. Or did he say 52? Remember Barack Obama said the 52 states? The Delilah Law, the little girl there who was hit by an illegal immigrant trucker, and he would ban the issuing of licenses to illegal immigrants. Wow, what a novel thought that is. He really embarrassed the Dems on defunding FEMA because he said that we're not doing all the snow removal that we could. And FEMA would, I guess, be involved in that when they get a couple feet of snow like they did in the Northeast. And asked the Dems to, he basically challenged them, stand to affirm DHS funding. None would do that. That's when he said, you should be ashamed of yourselves. And he denigrated them to their face several times. He was kind to the Supreme Court. I was happy about that.
I told you.
He called it unfortunate. Called it an unfortunate
disappointed.
decision. Yeah, and that's fine. That's cool. But he didn't. I was just afraid he was going to get personal with him, and he didn't do that. It was great. He actually showed more restraint than he has in the past. It's very, very good.
I said I thought he would.
Have you been talking to him? You got a pipeline to him?
You know.
Yeah, the hotline.
I just right beforehand I said, Donald.
Restrain.
Yeah.
Zip it. Zip it. Zip it.
I thought he really hit the cost of living. I thought that was good, how he addressed that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And he said that, well, didn't he had a woman who was I think a server, and the guy was some kind of blue-collar guy making overtime. And so she made tips, he made overtime, and made the point that, hey, you're going to see more in your wallet that's going to stay there, not going to be taxed. And he mentioned beef prices maybe down a little. I don't know if I'm buying that. I haven't bought beef in a while, but it seems like it's pretty high. Oh, I did buy it for Christmas. But passed the SAVE Act. He said in order to shovel snow, you have to show 2 forms of ID. How come you don't have to show ID to establish you're an American citizen to vote? And the tribute to Charlie Kirk as well with his wife.
The text line is a good mix of reactions to State of the Union and projectile vomiting stories.
Okay, so if you want to text us on projectile vomiting or State of the Union, maybe there are some interesting dots to connect there. If you're liberal and you want to really connect those dots, I know exactly how they're going to be connected. 573-874-9390. DC Rundown coming up.
It's Wake Up Missouri.
8-minute speech. What's the longest speech you've ever given, Randy?
I don't know, but that was the greatest, longest of all. That was the longest of all time.
I have been to a Trump speech. I once went to, I think, the record-breaking CPAC speech, and it was really embarrassing because I was very close to the front. He comes in, I'm very excited, and then I have a flight to catch, but I'm like, I could be here. Well, he starts late, and then he keeps repeating, no one ever leaves during my speech, and I thought, I am going to have to crawl on the floor.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he's going to call me out for leaving in the middle of the speech, or I'm going to have to miss my flight and rebook. It was horrifying, but he's known for the long speeches, and he outdid himself. You know, I think as he goes on in his term, he should, one time he should show up and just do 5 minutes and just be mic drop and be out.
Wouldn't that be great?
I think the last one, that's how I would advise him if I was advising him. But of course, he floated a new retirement plan, declared a war on fraud, and called for a ban on congressional insider trading. Randy, that's a big issue for you.
I know. And he called out Pelosi. She was in the House, but he asked, if she's in the House, she needs to stand up.
He did call on tech companies and said tech companies pledged to cover energy costs for AI data centers. That's been a very hot topic. Of course, yesterday, it was announced that Meta agreed to buy 6 gigawatts of AI data center processing from AMD for over $100 billion, with an option to acquire some of AMD's stock. This is basically AMD's push to compete with NVIDIA, who's kind of been the market leader in the chip area. But let's talk more about this State of the Union. What did you think about the response? Largely well received.
Yeah, Spanberger did a good job. It's very effective.
It's interesting in that they're totally focused on things like affordability and safety. And you're thinking, did you just live through the same 4 years of Biden that I did? That's your issue now? You know, you were in charge of the government there for a while, and we didn't get any affordability and we didn't get any safety.
I did a fact check on her.
Oh,
Our
okay.
president has sent poorly trained federal agents into our cities, where they have arrested and detained American citizens and people who aspire to be Americans. And they have done it without a warrant. Our president
They
has
had
sent
administrative
poorly
warrants.
trained
Administrative
federal
warrants.
agents.
They didn't have judicial warrants in many cases.
Well, I think that a lot of our predictions came true, and I was afraid Drake was going to clip all of our predictions from yesterday and he was going to play the buzzer on us. But we said, here are some things to watch. Maybe he can zoom out. Maybe he can talk about, American excellence, which he did.
He did.
Maybe he will be a little bit more restrained, which he thankfully was. I don't think there were any cuss words.
Didn't hear one.
Name calling. He pointed to some people, but not like the rhetoric that we're kind of used to seeing kind of
Name calling kind of came the other way.
on the airplane. And a more serious attitude. I think we're seeing I really like Trump 2.0.
I thought it was good. No, it was as much as you can expect out of Trump. He couldn't resist telling them they should be ashamed of themselves.
And no real
That's okay.
And no real surprises. I heard some criticism this morning on a liberal podcast, and they said, well, he didn't announce anything new and blah, blah. I'm like, we're staying the course. We have a good plan. We're working on the plan. We're not out here doing a bunch of other stuff. We're doing what he said he was going to do, and we're making progress.
He gets an A.
I like it.
He gets
I think
an A.
so.
Yep. And it did show some restraint, so that was good to see. And I think that if they continue that staid, measured, serious approach, you never know what might happen. Let's talk about a cold case solved recently.
Has America been fair to Donald Trump? The people always know what's going on. I don't think the president knows.
Lots of interesting comments. Thanks everyone for weighing in on the State of the Union speech last night. It's always a big deal for America when markers are placed, flags planted, both sides of the aisle get their talk. One, of course, whoever's sitting in the Oval Office gets the primo spotlight, the top of the marquee heading, and then you have to try, if you're the minority party, to try to make some pushback in the rebuttal. And it was an interesting time. Now, we'll get into that a little bit later because we've had some comments talking about how he's the most divisive president ever. Others saying it was the greatest speech ever. God, we live in a great country, don't we? I mean, when people can have these diverse opinions and talk about them, and we're glad that you are talking about them. 573-874-9390 if you want to text us. 800-529-5572 if you're fired up and you want to get all on the air, and we'll get you on. Okay. Brian Hauswirth joins us now because law and order, public safety was on the agenda last night, Brian, and I think that you've got a case that maybe feels good in its own kind of way.
Yeah, it's a case that dates back to 26 years ago today, Randy and Stephanie. Good morning to you. And it was a case here in mid-Missouri and actually involved a Mizzou student. Attorney General Catherine Hanaway, as you both know, has prioritized her cold case unit. That's been a top priority for her. She, we now know, has been involved in a joint investigation. Along with Columbia Police, FBI has been involved, and they have announced the capture and arrest of a man from South Carolina for a gruesome murder that happened in Columbia back 26 years ago today. The woman, she was a student at Mizzou. Her name was Candace Ritchie. She was 21 years old. She was asphyxiated. We don't have probable cause statement yet, but I do have the motion to set bond, and I've linked to that at 939theeagle.com. We know she was asphyxiated. Body went undiscovered for days. He's accused of fleeing the state. I've looked into his criminal record, lengthy criminal record, violent record. Don't see anything here in mid-Missouri, but a big record out of the state of South Carolina. He potentially could face the death penalty. But yeah, Catherine Hanaway announcing that he has been ordered to basically stay and no bond for him until the trial. So he's going to stay in jail, and the FBI has been involved in this as well. But this is I think it's a significant development. There's one other thing we should note here, and I know you both cover politics quite a bit. There's a state representative from Kansas City named Mark Sharp, very prominent Democrat, probably one of the big rising stars in the Democratic Party. He has been urging the AG's office to look into this case. That's his sister, by the way, that was murdered. And KMIZ did an interview with him last night, ABC 17, and he praised Ms. Hanaway's office, praised the Boone County Prosecutor's Office for taking a look at this, said his sister needs to be remembered, and basically talked about how he was taken out of school, middle school, in the middle of the day when he was young, and it was just kind of heartbreaking to hear. So this is certainly not partisan because you've got this Democratic lawmaker praising the GOP Attorney General's office. Kevin Zellner's actually handling the prosecution, but I think that is significant. We don't know yet if he's going to waive or fight extradition. If he fights it, could just simply delay it for a little bit, but he's going to eventually end up back in mid-Missouri.
Wow. You know what I'm hoping, and you think about what's going on with the Nancy Guthrie case, Brian, when we're now into 3 weeks, beyond 3 weeks into this tragedy over there, which is, no doubt an abduction, and then or either a robbery gone south, no one knows. But they're now leaning on 23andMe kind of thing because apparently the DNA they found inside the house and on the glove 2 miles, things don't match on the traditional thing. But that's how they solved the Kohlberger case. Will we ever find out? Sort of the details of how they got to this solution?
I wish they would have had a press conference on this. And again, they maybe don't want to jeopardize the case. But the answer is yes. It'll either come out in trial or it will come out in the probable cause statement. They have not issued a probable cause statement. What they've done is a motion to set bond. I see he's being held on zero bond, but there's no, and KMIZ's reported this as well, there is no probable cause statement. It could be under seal. But the bottom line is sometimes they will have that. You're referring to what's called a CODIS hit, CODIS. And what happens is when someone is arrested for a felony in another state or goes into a prison, they take their DNA. They do that here in Missouri. It's state law. And sometimes there'll be a match. Sometimes it takes a while. This guy has a lengthy record, so I am a little surprised. But again, maybe they didn't have everything. It's 26 years old case. The technology that we had in 2000 is obviously much different than today, but it is it's a horrible case. And I would just say this, that we also have, I keep in touch with my sources at CPD quite a bit on several other cold cases. This is not one I've been checking in regularly. I mean, there's Virginia Davis, 1994, Hundle, a guy at Mizzou, the guy that basically ran Kaffner at Mizzou. Hundle was killed. They still haven't found his killer or killers at this time. So, and by the way, all those are active investigations. So CPD, even though they don't announce anything, they're always involved, and they were involved. In fact, we learned from the Attorney General, Ms. Hanaway, CPD went to South Carolina to apprehend Wilson. I did not know that until Catherine Hanaway announced that. I think that, but they also went to North Carolina to apprehend a different Wilson, James Wilson, from the 1984 cold case. So we've had that girl that was abducted down off Providence and, God, almost died. It was terrible. So we've had several cold cases here, but this
How
is
about the one in Cole County, Brian, with the Greg Jones murder in Russellville back in the 1990s?
Yeah.
They've actively been working that one and have a possible suspect involved in that whole thing, and it's on hold.
Yes, it is on hold, and he maintains his innocence. Of course, he used to run the Golden Corral. We're talking a case that we're talking now 35 plus years. That case in Cole County, that was definitely a bizarre case. That was primarily local people. This guy fled, but there are some similarities there too.
I mean, that's one thing that I think about when I think of this Nancy Guthrie issue is just, like, it's horrible enough that something, apparently horrible happened to her. But I think the not knowing is worse, right? Like if we just knew that she was already dead, that she got murdered, and, they had some leads, I feel like at least the family had something to go on. I think the work on these cold cases is so important, to imagine these families out there with no justice for that long, finally getting maybe some closure here. Kudos to the Attorney General's office in pursuing these things.
What leads, is this like a revisiting of the case, or is it just the result of 26 years of ongoing investigation, or does this represent a new commitment with more resources, different interagency interactions?
It's a great question. And Stephanie's point is very well taken, but a great question, Randy. And there's two things. Number one, Attorney General Hanaway has definitely made it clear that the cold cases are a priority for her. They are. And so there probably are others that obviously she's not going to tell us about, but that is a priority. She also, in her statement, which is a little different than the court document, she says in early 2025, a renewed focus of this case occurred after a member of the victim's family, I don't know if it was Representative Sharp, it doesn't matter, could have been anyone in that family, met with CPD, Roger Johnson, officials from the AG, and then from those meetings, AG, CPD resumed the investigation. So that family member had told them to reach out. Basically, what Mark Sharp said on TV, he wanted a different set of eyeballs to look at the case, and they did, and he was arrested. 26 years ago to the date this murder happened. Now, there's a lot of people listening that probably don't remember it, maybe when they weren't alive. If you were alive, if you were in Columbia and were an adult, you'd remember it. But again, there's so many murders, unfortunately, that happen. It's hard to remember every detail. But that's what happened. It was a member of the victim's family that did this. But, the thing the AG is telling the other counties is if you need some help in cases like this, reach out. Because this is going to be an expensive case. They're going to probably have to go to South Carolina and do depositions. Well, they will. I mean, there's no doubt about that. So that is where we're at right now.
That's kind of a move back for the AG's office, isn't it, Brian? You and I can think over our careers. I think back to Kenny Hulshoff, where the AG's special prosecutors went all over the state and handled all sorts of high-profile cases, more as the rule than the exception.
Yeah, exactly. And Kevin Zellner, Kevin Zellner is a bulldog of a prosecutor. He's the assistant attorney general. He'll be the one handling this case. And he is the one that, to John's point, he came here to Columbia and handled the Lindley Rennick cold case murder. That was the snake breeder case out of New Florence. It was prosecuted by the attorney. I can't remember if that was Eric. I guess it would have been Eric Schmidt's office. Eric Schmidt, because it was 2021 that he was prosecuted. Schmidt wasn't there in the courtroom, but it was Zellner. But bottom line is that is what happened, and Hanaway clearly making a renewal on that. The only question is, will he fight extradition? We'll see, Randy. But thank you, guys.
We have some updates on other stories. I know, John, you're reporting that, and thanks, Brian, in the Lincoln, the two Lincoln University athletes apparently were the ones, the victim and the perp in that stabbing incident, right?
Yeah, that's correct. The victim and the woman accused of fatally stabbing him were both international students and track athletes at Lincoln University. The victim was Kavon Goldson. He was from Jamaica, and his accused attacker, Danita Jackson, was from Guyana, South America. So that's kind of a weird twist.
And in the Southwest Missouri sheriff's deputies' killings by the guy who himself was neutralized, we now have ID on the second deputy, right? Michael Highslope.
Yeah, that
we have
a second deputy killed, and the other two. The least good news that Don Luzader had for us was that the two other deputies wounded did not have life-threatening injuries and expected to make a recovery.
We have a good friend of ours in the medical community who has a good friend who works in Christian County, and said that her son. So the friend of our friend, her son works at a church and had never met either deputy, but I guess the morning before the shooting, Mr. Ramirez, Deputy Ramirez, had come in to drop off some paperwork at where that son works. And the son told the deputy as he walked out the door, "Thanks for keeping us safe." And a few hours later, he was dead during a traffic stop.
You never know when you're in law enforcement.
Yeah. Wow, something else. Well, when we come back, you've heard of a Fitbit, right, Stephanie?
Oh, yeah. My kids have them.
Well, they're working on a fart bit.
What?
That when we come back on Make Missouri Healthy Again.
I am not spending my money on that.
It's Wake
Well, researchers at University of Maryland would like to give you a PhD. Stephanie, would you like to have a PhD from them?
I think I need hazard pay for working with men who like to talk about farts.
It's called a prodigious hydrogen producer.
Oh, my gosh.
And this would be the top 3% of gas passers as judged by what is now, you've heard of continuous glucose monitors. You see that for people that have diabetes, right?
Yeah, they're really helpful.
Little discs that stick in, for a couple of weeks. They give you a really nice idea of how your sugars are doing in your bloodstream.
You can get a heart monitor.
Yeah, you've got the Aura rings, and Apple Watch has been revolutionary for cardiology and all of. You've seen the little thing where you can get a little EKG just by putting 2 fingers on a little platform. Well, we don't know what sort of the standard number of flatus passings is per day.
There are some things you just don't need to know.
But some people do have digestive distress, right? And it's really a problem. And we all know when you eat more fiber in the ramp-up phase, that's something that until your microbiome adjusts and you get a little more adjusted, and even after, it's a healthy thing to a point. But some people have a lot of distress because as the gas is building up and the gut wall is stretching, you have a lot of cramps and distress. So we don't really know what normal is, despite all of this time. Researchers have sent out the first 800 of these little devices that are about the size of a stack of 3 nickels, and they go where the sun don't shine, and it measures. They call it a Fitbit for farts. Okay, that's what they're called. They're having fun, but they actually, for gastroenterologists, and a gastroenterology friend of mine, very good friend, sent me this article. And I'm surprised you didn't see this. This is in the Wall Street Journal.
I saw it. Yeah, it hit the
and
journal.
you passed it over, didn't you? So to speak.
No, I think I passed it along to y'all.
This uses some really advanced technology that's becoming cheaper and cheaper. But when
we're using advanced technology to measure people's farts.
Well, but there's a medical reason for this. I mean,
why?
Continuous monitoring is really now in vogue, and it really helps us understand, for instance, ambulatory monitoring for blood pressure. Many people have blood pressure that just goes up in the office, but that's not really in the wild what their blood pressure is. So you learn that, So there's all these kind of things. But what's interesting is they found that do you know what the record holder was so far in their study? John, do you have an idea?
I'll defer because I think we touched on this once before.
The record holder passed gas 175 times in a single day. Another subject broke wind only 4 times.
This sounds like something you force people to do when they lose your fantasy football league. Like it sounds like a punishment.
But this is
14-year-old boys in a locker room.
Yeah.
Now, when you go into this lab, it was funny that when you go into the lab, they've got all of these 3D printers that make artificial butts. That they have mannequin butts that then the 3D print. No, they use the mannequin butts. The 3D printers are for the casings of this deal.
John, we've solved the mystery of the booty bandit.
Booty bandit, the silicone butt went.
Stealing the silicone butts for science.
And now there's a little bit of a problem because in a scientific lab, he's only allowed to have 20% hydrogen, but the gut bacteria that we have that don't require oxygen. That's where we get the hydrogen from the gas, and you're only allowed to have 20%. So he's had to modify the amount of gas in the hydrogen in the synthetic flatus.
So the guy who won the fart competition, do we know what he was eating? Like, does he have a medical diagnosis?
They're learning because they are asking people to do a dietary intake diary, and then they're correlating that with the number of gas passes, and then they can begin to maybe work backwards, so to speak, into what kind of a microbiome.
The researchers were referring to their documentation as the Flatus Atlas.
Yes, the Flatus Atlas. So you could you'll get a small plaque declaring you a prodigious hydrogen producer. That's a PhD if you're in the top 3%.
Good. You
the least gassy will get a Zen digester accolade.
I cannot. This is what we're spending our time and resources on.
Well, no. Microbiome is so critical. I'm not kidding you. It's really a big deal. And this is the way of sort of backing into it.
So like the kid in the study who said, I farted in my wallet so I'd have gas money.
There you go.
Yikes.
Well, I don't know. I guess we flamed out with that story, didn't we?
Oh, my gosh.
You dealt it, smelt it.
Coming up, State Auditor Scott Fitzpatrick. Stay tuned. of governance at the state and even at your local level. And one of those people, in fact, the chief among those people in Missouri, is State Auditor Scott Fitzpatrick, and he joins us now. Auditor, how you doing? Thanks for joining us. Were you up late last night watching the State of the Union?
You know, I was up late, even past the State of the Union. So I'm gonna actually have to watch the speech recorded. I wasn't able to watch it live last night, but have seen a couple clips, and sounds like it was quite the show.
Well, your heart will be warmed when you see the USA men's hockey team come out. It was really something. So I sense that you were up late, maybe with your green visor, the auditor's kind of green visor working
how
on.
You imagine me?
Yeah, one of
wearing
many.
A green visor,
One of many projects going on. Let's talk about it a little bit. You're keeping an eye on credit cards that are issued to government employees, and what's going on there?
Well, the state spends about $100 million a year on, basically, we call them P cards, but yeah, you're right. They're basically a charge card or a credit card that the state uses to make expenditures where it's not practical or not efficient to go through a procurement and issue a check. And the reason we're looking at that is, number one, it's a lot of money. Number two, it's hard to steal money from state government when you need to get a check written. But the one area where theft could occur from the state is through abuse of the P card program. So when a state employee has a P card assigned to them and they're able to use that really kind of at their judgment, that is kind of the risk that we're identifying and looking at. And so we just want to review the use of the P cards, review the controls around the use of the P cards so that we can identify if there are any concerns that would allow people to use that program or use those charge cards for expenses that wouldn't be good use of state funds.
Is this something that was triggered by some of your local government work? I recall seeing an audit, and I forget where it was from, but it was like they were spending money, at Target for like employee parties or so, buying like decor and like random food. And so I would presume that in all of your work in reviewing local governments, maybe you see some things and you think, oh goodness, that's an area that is kind of available for fraud, and then apply that to the state.
I think that was maybe subconsciously what happened. When we had the conversation about doing the P card audit, we didn't necessarily talk about the issues that we've seen with local government, but I'm sure that that was on my mind because we do see a lot of that at the local level. You're right. There was a city, Kennett, Missouri, down in southeast Missouri, where the city clerk or the deputy city clerk was using the Walmart credit card for a tremendous amount of personal expenses over a long period of time, and it wasn't detected. So doing this audit was probably somewhat prompted by that, although it wasn't explicitly the reason we did it.
Why? I mean, it sounds silly to, well, maybe it isn't. But when I ran a little hospital, I didn't even want a card. I didn't want any kind of questions or optics or anything. So when we took out, a recruit, a doctor or someone we were recruiting, and took them to a recruiting dinner or lunch, I just paid the bill, took the receipt, got some miles on my credit card. Oh, maybe that was a problem. And then and just submitted my receipt and got a check. What was wrong with? Why don't we just do that? It's simple, clean. It can be adjudicated by your supervisor, right? If you're or the supervisor.
Yeah, I generally agree that the expense report process is a cleaner, less risky way to allow employees to incur expenses on behalf of the state or their employer in general. The challenge is that sometimes those expenses can be much larger than a meal. And so asking a state employee to float the state government for, because it'd be a little bit different. Walking into the controller's office at the hospital and getting him to write a check might be a little less cumbersome than doing the same thing at the state level. It might take a week or two to get reimbursed. And so that was that's a concern is with that.
Okay.
I know they're moving the school districts potentially to letter grades, but you don't give out letter grades, but you do give out ratings. And so you can go from poor to excellent. What's in between there?
Well, I'm glad you asked this, Stephanie, because I've been thinking about adding another category. It's currently excellent, good, fair, and poor. But I've been thinking about adding not good in between fair and poor. What do you guys think about that?
I like it, but I think you should also give a letter grade. And you recently, if we only had 4, I think the marijuana folks get a D. The state marijuana folks, because so they got a fair rating, and the only thing lower is poor, which I would say is an F. Talk to us about this audit of the marijuana program.
We went back and looked at the implementation of the program, and I want to first acknowledge that it was a really big job that the department had in creating this program from scratch. I had to do that with the Most Scholars program when I was state treasurer, and it's not an easy task to start something from nothing, especially when they had all the constitutional requirements that were in place. So I do want to say that, but a lot of things go into a rating. Number one is the number of findings. The severity of findings is also a factor, and then the management's response to those findings. Are they open to implementing the recommendations? Or are they being basically negative towards the audit and not cooperative and not wanting to implement recommendations to resolve the findings? And in the case of the marijuana program, we experienced quite a bit of pushback to the audit results, and not a lot of agreement with the findings or the recommendations. So that was a big part of it.
I'm reading your summary, and it says the report takes issue with the derogatory and inflammatory language used in response by the Department of Health and Senior Services. Yikes.
Well, yeah. So the report, I think our report was about, 45 pages long in total. Their response to it was 23 pages, which is it's a historically long response is what I would say. I don't think we've had anything approaching 23 pages in any other audit as far as a response goes. And so that was part of it. And the response is oftentimes, I would agree with the characterization of derogatory towards the auditors and their understanding of the program and things of that nature. But in my view, and I've tried to be very objective about these things, we did gain a strong understanding of the program. There were several findings, there were a range of findings, starting with the license application process that was, basically looking back at how they awarded the licenses. And I think that's important because if this ever happens again, whether it's for the Department of Health implementing a new program or it's a different state agency that has to go through something similar, making sure that the shortcomings in the application process aren't repeated is, I think, an important good government step to take. And so we looked at those things, which are very, fairly old in terms of when they happened from, 5 or 6 years ago. But we also looked at kind of the ongoing operations of the program and things were related to like business change requests when somebody wants to sell their license or their business from one person to another. The amount of time that it takes the department to review that and approve it, in many cases, had gone far too long. So that's an example of a current finding. The inspections and looking at inventory controls to make sure that, there's not cannabis making its way to the black market. We had some findings related to those inspections. So there were things that were more current in nature, and then there were things that were more legacy, looking at the implementation of the program, the licensing process, and things like that.
That's State Auditor Scott Fitzpatrick joining us on Wake Up Missouri on this Wednesday morning.
Scott, I have a friend who's a retired state auditor, and he's got the horror stories about sitting in unair-conditioned storerooms in small counties in the dead heat of summer and all. How has technology changed that? So presumably your folks don't have to camp out in a hot storeroom?
Yeah, well, we do still conduct on-site work and going to the counties and being present at the county or at the city that we're auditing or the school district is part of the job, and that's important to me that we continue to do that. However, I agree it's not necessary for us to be on-site 100% of the time during the audit. It is much easier these days for auditees or people that are being audited to upload information to us through basically a software application that we use to run our audits. And so we can do document requests where it basically just sends them a link that they can click to upload documents that we're asking for. So it is much easier, where there are much fewer instances now of our auditors being stuck in a hot damp room in a basement or whatever. It's changed quite a bit, but we do still expect some on-site work, and think it's important to show our faces at the city or the county or the school district that we're auditing, so that we can be present for part of the audit.
Now, speaking of technology, we recently hosted the state's AI czar for an AI town hall, and I saw the News Tribune covered, I think yesterday, said that you and the Attorney General are implementing AI in your office. Can you talk a little bit more about that effort?
Yeah, I can. AI is going to become part of daily work lives for a lot, if not all, white collar type professions, and that includes attorneys and accountants. And so we've tried to kind of get out ahead of that, as was mentioned in that article. We've adopted an AI policy for our office that allows. We use Copilot, which is the Microsoft application, because it comes as part of our Office 365 program that we have for the state. It also has a level of security that is acceptable for us. We have a lot of confidentiality requirements with our audits. The statutes require work papers to be contained within our office and are closed records. So we couldn't use our information to train the AI models, if that makes sense. So a lot of times when you're putting information into these models, if you've used ChatGPT, it's using that information to train itself to get better. And so because of the confidentiality requirements in place for us, we couldn't use an application that was going to take our information or our data to train the model. And so Copilot was an option that we had that didn't do that. And so we're using that to just basically do data analytics, editing reports, maybe first drafts of findings, things like that.
All right. Well, using technology to be the state watchdog, and we appreciate that. Thanks for being with us to go through a lot of these really important issues. Scott Fitzpatrick, appreciate you.
Hey, thanks, guys. Have a good one.
You too. When we come back, why don't they stand? Stay tuned.
It's Wake Up Missouri.
Tonight, I promise you, we will ensure justice for your magnificent daughter, Irina. How do you not stand? How do you not stand? I'm asking this.
Well, after he had the mom of Irina Zarutska, who was, of course, brutally murdered on that trainway in North Carolina, where the guy came from behind her. He was clearly a mentally deranged, probably schizophrenic person who had been out and over and back and through the turnstiles of the criminal justice system there, in and out of jail. He recognizes her and says, look, we need justice for Irina after she was needlessly murdered by a career criminal. And the Democrats didn't stand. He says, how do they not stand? Look at that. How do they not stand? It's a bad look, Stephanie. And I think there were plenty of those especially when, and then Ilhan Omar and Rashida
Calling
Tlaib.
him a murderer.
Yeah. Calling him a murderer. Yeah, you murdered Americans. Yeah. Isn't that what they said? I think it was
exactly what she said.
I mean, Democrats are embarrassing themselves, and they have been, and they will continue to do that. Whether it's Gavin Newsom talking to a room full of people saying he's stupid too, whether it's AOC who can't answer a basic question, or whether they can't show respect for institutions or people or our country.
You're right.
They're embarrassing.
But we live in two Americas, because we have people texting at 573-874-9390 saying, well, he's the most divisive president ever. And my comment is, no, the country is, as polarized as I've seen it. I think the late 60s was a time like that, early 70s. I've seen times in my life they felt like this. But this is at a fevered pitch of polarization. Now, here's Eric Schmidt's reaction.
He laid out what a mess it was before. We have to remember that. The things that he's done in a year to fix the problems. I mean, securing the border, lowering crime, doing all these things, and then an optimistic view about America moving forward.
And he talked about crime. And I think we can say that as these heinous criminals, those illegal aliens, are removed, hopefully we'll have less Laken Rileys. Hopefully we'll have less of the various murders we've seen. And how many of them did they root out in Minnesota, despite all of the optics that the Democrats wanted to turn into negativity? And here's what Abigail Spanberger had to say.
The president did what he always does. He lied, he scapegoated, and he distracted. And he offered no real solutions to our nation's pressing challenges, so many of which he is actively making worse.
You've got really just a tale of two Americas there, and the truth is somewhere out there. It's our job to help, I guess, sort that out, and it's everyone listening's job to sort that out and then make your vote. He's certainly offering solutions to a problem that some of which largely he wasn't responsible for inheriting. If what you're doing isn't working, you better try something different. We'll be back.
I think
I love you. I'll put it on you. Absolutely. I'm not giving it back. I'm not giving it. I'll trade you that for a pound. Hey, that's cool. There we go. I never thought I'd ever have this on my. Okay, step back.
Well, that was Donald Trump in the Oval Office yesterday with the USA men's hockey team ahead of what was a dramatic entrance last night at the State of the Union speech. Congressman Mark Alford joins us now to give his assessment and his post-game analysis. Welcome in, Congressman. Thanks for being with us.
Well, thank you so much. Appreciate being on once again. I tell you what a historic speech. The world was watching to see if President Trump could deliver. That speech last night made me proud to be an American. And it also showed the great divide within America, those who want to support America, the America First agenda, put America's first, and those who want to put illegal aliens first. I think that was one of the most striking moments I've seen in a State of the Union speech, when the Republicans, we all stood for about 2 minutes applauding for America, while the Democrats sat on their hands like petulant children, willing to support illegal aliens over America. That's what this midterm is going to be about, folks. The affordability issue is getting worked out. We have a ways to go in that. Housing prices are coming down. Inflation rates certainly down, 9% down to 2.4%. Interest rates are coming down. America is starting to cook with bacon grease again, I think. In the second and third quarters, the One Big Beautiful Bill is going to really blossom and have real benefits for Americans. They're seeing huge increases in their tax refunds this year, on average 11%. And it's a new morning in America. I'm proud to be an American.
The showman in Trump was on full display, wasn't it, with the people in the gallery that were pointed out. I think of the woman who is a waitress and her husband, I think a truck driver, and how, the tax relief for working Americans is going to really impact people. And I thought those were really powerful real-life illustrations.
Those are real people, and that's why we've kind of rebranded this from the One Big Beautiful Bill to the Working Families Tax Cuts. It is about working families. I've got a constituent in Benton County, Warsaw. He called me last week. I talked with him. He is 76-year-old. His name is Melvin. He was almost in tears of joy because his daughter, who's a hairstylist, and son-in-law, who works a lot of overtime in his job, she works on tips. He works a lot of overtime. And for the first time, they're getting have gotten a substantial refund of $12,000. That's real money for real families. And that's just the tip of the iceberg of the benefits that we're going to see from the One Big Beautiful Bill benefiting families and, yes, businesses, and also dispelling the gaslighting and the outright lies from the left that this was all about billionaires and millionaires. It's not. It's about helping families.
Now, we were kind of making our predictions on yesterday's show, and Randy and I I think, had differing opinions about how he might approach the tariff decision in the court, but he was restrained. Talk to us about the impact of that decision and Trump's approach to it last night.
Well, he could have blasted the Supreme Court. I think there were 4 justices there last night. He could have, in Trump fashion, as he's done from other places, really gone after them. But he showed some restraint in that, which I think is good. I think we've got to return decorum to the U.S. House of Representatives. Another topic for another time. But when it comes to tariffs, there are tools in the tool belt for the president to use. And I know that these tariffs, I have people in my office from all walks of life, from different countries. I had 4 folks from Japan in my office yesterday talking about tariffs and how do we get certainty in the marketplace. That's what people are looking for. I think the Supreme Court decision, it didn't go the way that President Trump wanted, but it's starting to give some certainty to our businesses. If businesses can figure out what the price is going to be on products, they can adjust things accordingly. They can absorb things accordingly. I don't think the average American has been impacted to the level that the Democrats cried out loud that they were going to be impacted from. Yes, prices have risen on some things, some manufacturing, but we have so much more manufacturing moving into the United States of America. trillions of dollars in foreign investment committed because of the leverage that President Trump has used with tariffs to come into the United States of America. I think that is a big win for the American people.
That's Congressman Mark Alford. He was in the chamber last night during the president's historic State of the Union speech. He joins us on Wake Up Missouri.
Congressman, as the representative who has Whiteman Air Force Base in his district, when the president said he's not going to allow the world's number one sponsor of terrorism, Iran, to have nuclear weapon, that way with you. And I guess the second part, what's next?
Well, look, another proud moment for this former newscaster from Kansas City to be there on the House floor. I went up and talked to the chair of the Joint Chiefs last night. I didn't ask him if we were going to strike Iran, but I just wanted to know that we are supporting him in Congress and the decisions they have to make. I talked to Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. Of course, he was in St. Louis last week. I met with him there at Boeing as they're moving their defense manufacturing to add to what we're already doing there in St. Louis with building the new F-47 and other things. I don't know exactly what's going to go on with Iran. I don't have any inside information. I haven't been in any skiffs to learn details that I wouldn't be able to share with you anyway. But I do know this. We are ready to cut the head off the snake should the president decide that that's what needs to happen. This has been going on far too long, since we were kids, in the Iranian hostage crisis that played out on television, that cost Jimmy Carter his reelection and moved Ronald Reagan into the Oval Office. This has gone on far too long for a bully like the Ayatollah to be able to have control and sway over not just Israel, but to be a real threat to the rest of the world with intercontinental ballistic missiles. And I don't care if they're it's not about enrichment necessarily of uranium to weapons grade. This is about having the capability even to load a conventional weapon on a warhead and send it over to New York, or hit our carriers out at sea with the capabilities that already have, hypersonics as well. It's getting real, and it's about to hit the fan. And I know a lot of people aren't in favor of regime change, but I think this Ayatollah needs to leave, or he's going to leave one way or the other. Let's put it that way.
Congressman, I have to ask you, one of the things that I heard last night, and maybe I misheard it, but it sounded like the president wanted to get a jump start, or at least a matching fund up to $1,000 per year for people who don't have an employer-sponsored 401k. So it sort of sounds like an analogous thing to the, to the Trump kids, savings plans.
Right.
And doesn't that require congressional action? And what do you know about that?
Yes,
What can
you
you tell us?
Yeah. No, that's an idea, but we will run that through the Appropriations Committee. That money is going to have to be appropriated out of the budget that we have, which, we're already starting the appropriations process. I'm on 4 subcommittees. We've already had hearings for state and foreign operations. We've got other hearings coming up next week. But yeah, that will need to go through the appropriations process. It's a great idea, though. People who do not have money invested in America in particular are losing out, especially with the resurgence that we're having. And I know that not everyone's concerned about the S&P or the Dow Jones Industrial, but we've set new records in that, and that's building wealth in American companies primarily. It's building wealth in Americans' pockets. And just like the fund that's been set up for newborns in America that the president did, this fund would help the average American not participating in 401ks at work or any other plans get into that investment mode where you actually have some security other than Social Security, which was never intended when it was created to really be all end all for your retirement.
Let me ask you a tough question coming ahead of these midterms. One of the constituencies that was a really solid and growing support for Donald Trump and Republicans in the last cycle were young men. I have a lot of young men in my life and the people that they're connected to that are concerned that there's this rift among young men, separate from, I think, the larger conservative /GOP movement, many of them are concerned about, and I think some of this arises from the Epstein files, true or not, but allegations that there's a lot of nefarious business going on with Israel, with higher levels of power and our connection with Israel. That is really creating a gap. I think Tucker Carlson is the leader of that movement. I don't endorse it, but it's a reality. What are you doing? What is the RNC doing? What is the GOP doing to address people who have been brought into the tent but now are not happy with the very tight relationship between the United States and Israel?
Well, I think it's, in fact, this is a topic of conversation yesterday with some other Republicans that we were having. And I think some of us older folks who are waking up that we don't listen to Nick Fuente. We know Tucker Carlson. I think he's kind of gone off the deep end in a lot of areas. But I think it's about education, the historical education. I've got a portrait of Harry S. Truman hanging in my office here. In the Cannon office building. And if you've ever gone to the Truman Library in Independence, you must go. They've just redone it. There's a whole section on really his involvement that led to the creation of the State of Israel in 1947-48. And we've got to educate people about how our two countries are, I think, inextricably linked as nations. I firmly believe that. I have since I was a little kid, knowing that, I think part of our duty as a nation, I think one of the reasons that we have the protection of God Almighty and one of the reasons we are here as a nation is to help Israel. Yeah. Now, not everyone is going to agree with me on that, but I do know that Israel is a beacon of hope and democracy in the Middle East that did not exist before. Yeah. And that is spreading. I think the Abraham's Accords are a indicator, and more people are joining, more countries are joining onto that, is an indicator of the desire to remove people like Iran, the mullahs in Iran, the Houthis, Hamas, Hezbollah, the troublemakers from that region, and have some sanity and peace in the Middle East.
Thanks for addressing that, because it's something that concerns me. These guys are generally supportive of the Trump agenda, but this particular burr under their saddle is a real divisive thing, and I'm glad that you and your colleagues are on it. Hey, thanks, Congressman Alford. We look forward to our next conversation. Thanks for your analysis of the State of the Union. Great job. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, and appreciate your listeners. And we will be filing for re-election on Tuesday. I couldn't be there. I know a lot of people, this is another big issue. You guys have been addressing the new 4th and new 5th. So we're on top of it. And go team.
All right. Thanks a lot. There he is, Congressman Mark Alford. John, what do you have coming up?
The TV anchor said, how about a nightcap or maybe a half a dozen?
Uh-oh. And then Drake did what he did at the Mizzou Arena. We'll be back.
It's Wake Up Missouri.
And that would be all, except for this.
Australian TV reporter Danica Mason offered up an on-air apology after her coverage from the Winter Olympics got a little sloppy. Mason reportedly stumbled over several words, wandering off topic, hitting on the price of coffee in Italy and even frozen iguanas in Florida, before one of her co-anchors piped up and blamed the cold climate for her slurring. Next day, Mason said, "I totally misjudged the situation. I probably shouldn't have had a drink, especially in these conditions. It's cold, we're at altitude, and probably not eating dinner didn't help as well. Not the standard I set." According to a colleague who was at the next table at the restaurant, said he watched Danica pound down a Negroni, a limoncello spritz, and most of a bottle of a nice Chianti Classico.
Oh.
He said he watched her wrap it up with an Angelo Azzurro, a Blue Angel for dessert. The Roman cocktail made with blue curacao, triple sec, and a jigger or two of gin.
Whoa.
That sounds delicious.
Yeah. Should ask Mark Alford about it. He ever drank to steady his nerves before he went on camera.
Yeah. Holy cow. How many ounces of booze is that? Think about that.
She had the what? She had the Negroni.
A Negroni is equal parts what? Gin, sweet vermouth, and Campari.
And she had a limoncello spritz.
Which is like an Aperol spritz. They're pretty good.
Yeah. Then a Chianti. And then a Blue Angel, which is kind of a dessert drink, but it's got a jigger or so of gin in it too.
That's a lot of mixing of liquors.
It's a lot of booze.
And a lot of sweetness in those liquors to drive the booze right into your bloodstream.
There you go.
Quicker,
And she didn't eat, she said as well.
On an empty belly? Whoa. Well, maybe she should have
Aussies, Imagine she didn't have an oil can of Foster sitting in front of her on camera.
Maybe she should have done what John Kennedy told Donald Trump on his way out of the speech last night.
I think you should take the rest of the day off. I think we have to. We're going to have to.
He sees the president coming down the aisle on his way out and says, "I think you should take the rest of the day off." The president laughed and patted him on the shoulder, as he's known to do.
That was a State of the Union for the record books, that's for sure.
How long, Stephanie?
109 minutes.
Whoa.
They said actually, last year it was 99 minutes. So if you take the 99 minutes plus the 10 minutes they did for the hockey team, maybe his speech wasn't actually that much longer, but it does go in the record books as the longest.
I think I saw the goalie who's got the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Well, he's going to get it.
Yeah, Hellebuck.
He looked at near the end of that tribute or that acknowledgement of him. He appeared to be quite moved. I mean, he was really. He just kept pounding his heart, and he was just really moved by that. What a story!
I don't know how you could.
What a story! Apparently, he wasn't drafted high, and when he came out of college, wasn't thought to be really someone who was going to.
Yeah, he played in the minors for a long time.
And is he a hulk of a guy? He's like a Sasquatch out there in the goal, right? But he moves quickly, moves well. Hey, you're listening to Wake Up Missouri. Join us with your thoughts of the speech. 800-529-5572, 573-874-9390.
Impose a 10% global tariff under Section 122.
It's your morning addiction.
Some of these commercial driver's license schools, some of them don't even have a curriculum.
Wake Up Missouri with Stephanie Bell, the Zimmer News Team.
I guess Hakeem is upset that gas prices are the lowest it's been in 5 years.
And now introducing your host, Randy Tobler.
I'm very proud to say that during my time in office, both the first 4 years and in particular this last year, there has been a tremendous renewal in religion, faith, Christianity, and belief in God. Tremendous renewal. This is especially true among young people, and a big part of that had to do with my great friend, Charlie Kirk, a great guy, great man. So last year, Charlie was violently murdered by an assassin and martyred, really martyred for his beliefs. His wonderful wife, Erica, is with us tonight. Erica, please stand. Thank you, Erica. Been through a lot. In Charlie's memory, we must all come together to reaffirm that America is one nation under God, and we must totally reject political violence of any kind.
Well, that was Donald Trump in a highlight of last night's State of the Union speech, historic speech in its length, historic in the narrative of America first, America's back, America's a hot nation, the economy is zooming up with more to come. And that recognition that faith and religiosity in a nation under God is coming back, led by young people. And Stephanie, they didn't talk about when the Democrats didn't stand, maybe one or two, when he just mentioned generically that faith and religion are back. They did stand, however, when he mentioned that political violence of all time has to stop.
Thank
so,
goodness.
To their credit, at least they got it right once.
I don't know. The listeners aren't buying it. Sean says they're a disgrace. Mike says they really are a pathetic bunch. And overwhelmingly, I'm sorry, I can't keep up with all of the texts. Y'all really liked the State of the Union, and many of you stayed up for the entire 109 minutes of it.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, how we live in America where Americans look at the same set of facts, the same video, the same, non-AI generated video on the news feed. You see people assaulting cop cars. You see masked people assaulting reporters. Some of the new independent, intrepid, non-mainstream reporters that are covering an Antifa riot, for instance, attacking them. You see that justified. The governor of New Jersey, of Virginia, Spansberger, in her response last night, essentially was okay with and was all right with kids walking out of school. She made a comment to that effect that we live in a country where it's good that people can walk out of school, and I think she's referring to like K through 12. Since when is that validated, that you walk out of school in a protest? And that's validated by a national figure, in this case, made national, but a governor. John, Stephanie, Drake, do you recall ever, if you were involved?
You never did senior skip day?
We didn't. They told us they told us we wouldn't graduate if we took it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I didn't do that, but I just it just occurs to me that when we're in a place when it's okay if masked individuals can attack police officers, police cars, that's okay because they disagree with something. and the cops are not doing anything to those people. And on the other hand, the Democrats are saying, take the masks off the people that are being attacked. Their families are being doxxed. I mean, it's a surreal world we live in. And we're a divided country. We live in two Americas.
You're talking to the absolute wrong person about skipping school, Randy.
Why is this?
I was a criminal offender. I was
serial.
Were you the goat skipper?
Yeah, I was. There were some kids who took off more than me, and it's not like I overdid it. I got my work done, but I definitely had a couple days where I was not sick.
And what did your mom do for a living?
She was a teacher. That's the crazy thing. I kind of got away with it more because of that.
Awful.
Drake. Now, when you skipped, that was not... Did you pay double duty? Because didn't you get in trouble for wearing the pickle suit when you weren't supposed to? Did you
No. So the pickle suit was like my first 2 years of high school, and that was the first principal, and then we got the second one, which he was way more strict, but I just didn't want to go to school some days. There were some days where it was just not happening.
Well, for those of you who grew up in a time when there was, you talk about it a lot, Stephanie, about respect for institutions. It doesn't mean you need to be approving and just Pollyanna about our institutions. If you think there's something wrong, if you think the DOJ hasn't been strident enough in prosecuting the Epstein wrongdoers, okay, that's fine. That's apart from just abolishing the institution. No more DHS, done, gone. And that's the way I think the left looks at America. They just want to burn it all down.
Yeah. I mean, they're a disgrace. I think I agree with the listeners who said they're embarrassing, distasteful, a disgrace. And we see it time and time again. It doesn't seem to move the needle. I mean, you just pulled up a picture of Mamdani, but whether it's him or Newsom or AOC, I mean, look at their leadership. Like, look who's at the, who they're picking as like to put forward, right? Look at Kamala. I mean, if that's the best you've got and that's who you pick as your leader, yikes.
Well, Trump sent out a pretty good shot over the bow at Nancy Pelosi last night over the whole push to eliminate insider trading in Congress.
Well, okay, so here's another thing. Take a listen to this. Now, I just want you to listen to this. This is visually a scene during the snowstorm at New York University. In Washington Square Park in New York. And here's just a little bit of what happened. Police officers without masks, NYPD, walking down, they were called in, apparently, here and at New York University, to address what was a growing snowball fight. Two of the officers ended up going to the hospital because they became the target of the fight, and it wasn't just snowballs, it was ice chunks. I saw one of them, I could tell, I told Helene when I saw this, one of them was hit in the left eye, and you could see the eye all bruised and red, and I mean, I don't know whether his cornea was abraded, and he was rubbing his eye, and they chased after a couple of them. I'm ashamed to be in an America that in New York City, the gleaming beacon of American greatness and prosperity and everything we are, you have a mayor that comes out and just says, he downplayed it. Mamdani downplayed this attack on officers. This wasn't just an innocent snowball fight. They were getting hit, and you could see it plain as day. A couple of them landed in the hospital. And he downplayed it. He wrote on social media that he saw the videos getting pelted. He says, officers, like all city workers who've been out in a historic blizzard, treat them with respect. If anyone's catching a snowball, it's me. But initially, he just said they were just kids. And then he had to walk it back. Well, these people are on camera. We have AI. We have facial recognition. I don't want to tell you what I think should happen to these people because I get violently angry about this. I just want such retribution and such punishment, public, humiliating, I'm not going to say it, disfiguring publish. I just want them to be hurt badly.
That's not very.
Who the hell do they think they are?
Yeah.
Well, look, okay, Stephanie, sometimes doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results is insanity.
Fool me once.
When with our soft on crime, they're just kids. These are bearded men. These are not just kids. And I don't understand why. But so here's the problem. Here's the challenge ahead of these midterms. And we asked Mark Alford about it. There's a large swath of this country. It's within a percentage of two, who apparently are okay with this. They are okay with people, with cops' cars getting rammed, with frozen ice bottles being thrown at ICE people who are trying to find heinous child abusers, murderers, rapists, and get them the heck out of this country. And there are people that justify the actions against them and their families.
And it's affecting everyday folks. I mean, how many crimes have we talked about just this week? How many times do we talk about these soft on crime policies and something heinous happens to a good, law-abiding citizen by someone who should have never been out, who has a rap sheet as long as, too long to fully summarize in a short radio segment. I mean, it's not just, to them, I think it's a matter of principle. But when it's, I think for us, when we see, officers being killed, your friends and neighbors being run over, people losing limbs, people losing their life, people losing their mom, their daughter, whatever, at the hands of these criminals, it's not a matter of principle. It's really, it's affecting law-abiding, regular, everyday citizens right here in mid-Missouri. And whether we're talking about, these criminals with the long rap sheets or whether we're talking about illegals, we've had lots of crime here. And I think, they want to stand up, and I think, was it Emmett yesterday who texted, our institutions are teaching them that it's the moral thing to stand up for these people.
You're right.
And it's just, it's wrong. It's wrong.
I mean, that's as close to morality as the sun is from the moon. I mean, it's not, how could you call it? They make it moral. This is our duty. Just like Mark Kelly somehow thinks it's okay to tell soldiers to just go ahead and if you disagree with what's going on in those boats against the drug runners, just go ahead. We've come to a point where liberty is now interpreted as my reality is my justification to do to you whatever I think is justice on my terms. I'm the prosecutor, jury, and judge and executioner because I have freedom and it's the moral thing to do. Man, we gotta get our act together here, folks. But how do we convince enough people in the middle of the road that maybe that's not the right tack ahead of these very important midterm elections? I don't know. Well, let's see what's going on in the market, whether it's tacking in the right way or not. When we come back, stay tuned.
It's Wake Up Missouri.
Well, it's midweek. How are the markets looking?
Well, stocks bounced back yesterday, so good news. We had the Dow up 0.76%, the S&P up 0.77%, the Nasdaq up 1.04%. As we look at what was driving those gains, we had all above positive 1% was utilities, technology, industrials, and consumer discretionary. As we look at the futures this morning, everything is, like our listeners, feeling very positive. If you want to weigh in about the State of the Union, a lot of people are giving Trump a letter grade on our Facebook page. You can find us at Wake Up Missouri, and folks are overwhelmingly, I think, positive about last night's State of the Union, and the market is reflecting that as well. Now, Randy, you've been talking a lot today about we are living in two Americas, and when I opened this article in the Journal, I thought, yes, we are. And a lot of articles have been written about the K-shaped economy, and that's why we're seeing the polling on the economy, in that people who have a lot of money in the markets, people who are wealthier, are purchasing a lot. They're bolstering the economy. They're spending a lot, but that people on the lower side are really struggling and aren't benefited by things like market gains. And so they're saying the economy is really taking this K-shape. And that, I think, was on my mind when I saw this headline. What the wealthy want in their private jets.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
And I thought, this is a question I have never pondered before, but apparently it's not caviar or champagne. When I think about private jets, I think about rap videos. And I think about, champagne. Apparently not. They want thinner seats. They're really mad about how bulky the seats are because they want room for other things. Yeah. But apparently there are some safety standards when it comes to jets, and aviation rules require seats to withstand 16 times the force of gravity. So from the frame to the padding, the seats are often really bulky. They take up a lot of space.
You just need that much hardware to provide that compliance. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Other things, and I didn't even know this was a career. I mean, if lawyering doesn't work out for me, I think interior designer for not only private jets but also yachts. Apparently, that's a thing.
I can see you in that role.
I could do this. But apparently, other popular requests are chef prepared meals. They do not want a plastic tray. They want real silver, real plates.
Well, microplastics will do you in, so yeah.
Wine cellars.
Of course.
So the wine's at the correct temperature.
Two dual zone, reds and whites.
They want a spa-like experience, red light therapy blankets, LED masks, and spa carpets. In fact, one client stores his Peloton-like bike in the hangar, but they've somehow retrofitted the aisle that when he wants to get his workout in on the plane, they can snap the bike into the aisle and he can bicycle.
Yeah. I thought maybe it would come up from the cargo hold. There's come up. Well, I guess private planes don't have a big belly cargo, do they?
I'm thinking for our folks in mid-Missouri, I mean, some of those RVs right now, I mean, you could take some of these tips and turn I've been in some RVs. I'm like, this RV has more TVs than my house.
The RVs are spectacular, some of them, aren't they?
Right? So if you're wondering what the other half lives like, check out this Journal article and what people are requesting now in their private jets.
You didn't mention bidet, but maybe that's a standard accoutrement.
I'm
and a microwave for the president's quarter pounder.
There you go, yeah.
Ice cold Diet Cokes.
Yeah. That bidet is probably standard equipment, right? I would think
so.
Yeah, I would think that for sure. Hey, it's
Has America been fair to Donald Trump? The people always know what's going on. I don't
To pass what we will call the Delilah Law, barring any state from granting commercial driver's licenses to illegal aliens.
Well, that was one of many initiatives that the president challenged the Congress to get done last night. One, he calls it Delilah Law. They had the young lady there, the little girl. I don't know, what is she, maybe 10, 11, maybe younger, with her father. And she had been hit in a tremendously bad wreck with an illegal commercial truck driver. And we've seen these stories from Florida to California. She's disabled as a result of this. Yep. I mean, it looked like she'd maybe paralyzed, maybe at least partially. And her name's Delilah. And what a common sense thing that would be, right? Now, I guess there's some problems with the states have the right to issue their own licenses and have their own, jurisdiction over that. But can't we all agree that if you're an illegal, you shouldn't get a commercial driver's license? I mean, things that seem so common sense are yet so difficult to.
No, we've heard anecdotally from some of our Wake Up Missouri listeners that they dealt with them on the loading docks, and these guys can't even speak English. Some of the truckers.
Yeah, you're right. No, if you can't speak English and read the sign, how can you be a safe driver? I mean, I imagine myself. We've rented a car once in Mexico. I won't do it again. The day we were supposed to leave, all our tires were slashed. It was awful. And it wasn't Puerto Vallarta after they took out a drug kingpin.
Yikes.
It was in Cozumel. At any rate, I felt nervous because obviously I couldn't read the signs. I could read the numbers on the speed limit.
I've never rented a car in a foreign country.
But, and so you just think, I remember landing in Madrid when we went to Spain when Helene was learning over there about their culinary education. And I was lost. The airport had no English. And I thought, well, I wouldn't deserve to get why would I even ask for a license? I don't understand the language. There's some kind of a hubris among foreigners that think that I like America. I want to be in America. I don't really want to assimilate. I just want to be there and benefit from everything, but I don't want to really be a part of it. I just want to benefit it. I want to be a taker, not a giver.
They jump in the truck and punch up the GPS and follow it to their destination, and all good.
Wow.
Until it's not.
Until it's not.
Yeah, that's fair. I was just recently non-stateside, and I was in an Uber, but the guy was clearly from somewhere, I don't know exactly, from somewhere in Asia, and his whole thing was in, I don't know, it might have been Japanese or whatever, and we couldn't really hardly speak to him, but his phone was, telling him all of the things, right? Yeah. But had we had an emergency or something else and needed to communicate with him, I think we would have struggled. I'm thinking of just like being in an airport in a foreign country when I'm just like, look at the arrows. It's tough to navigate an airport when you can't read the language or the signs, right? And it's not well marked. I'm thinking if I was on the road, I'm not that great of a driver anyway, but.
And he was only asking for a prohibition of issuance of commercial license. I think all illegal. If you're illegal, I'm sorry. Why do you get the benefits of being an American? I just don't get it. All right, well, enough of that. He made another initiative proposal, which, wow, this one really, I thought this was cool.
We're telling the major tech companies that they have the obligation to provide for their own power needs. They can build their own power plants as part of their factory so that no one's prices will go up. And in many cases, prices of electricity will go down for the community and very substantially down.
Massive energy demands from the growing, proliferating data centers. And it makes sense to perhaps make right-sized regulatory environment with feds working with states so that it doesn't take 20 years to build a modular nuclear plant, let's say. And then any extra electricity could go into the grid. You would think this could work out for the everyday citizen whose electric prices are up. Last year, electricity prices were up an average of 10%, and in some places 30%. It makes sense, huh?
I mean, I think electricity prices have been going up for a long time, long before the advent of data centers. And I think, we talked to Cindy O'Loughlin about it. The legislature passed a bill last year requiring the utility companies to establish a large load tariff. Two of our investor-owned utilities, Evergy and Ameren, did that in the last year. I think Liberty is in right now, where they filed their notice that they're going to come in to do the same. And I think that statute basically says you got to have a tariff for these large load customers, and it has to be designed in a way that they're paying their fair share, which is, I mean, it's a hallmark of utility regulation. It's called class cost of service. And the industrials pay for the industrials, the residential pays for the, and they talk a lot in these cases for the 20 years I've been doing it about cross-class subsidization. You know, the industrials don't want to have to pay to keep the residential rates low. Meanwhile, if you've got a big manufacturing plant, you don't want to increase the rates on your residential class to pay for the manufacturing plant, right? So this is a hallmark of utility regulation that everyone, each class of customer pays their own fair share.
Well, and the whole debate was when that was before the lawmakers, the other side of it was Ameren and the major utilities being given the green light to charge customers for power plants that are not yet online. So it's kind of a tight wire, isn't it?
Well, how many? If you're a regular listener to Wake Up Missouri, and I hope you are. If you aren't, you can catch up on the podcast. You know, because I know some of you can't listen to all 3 hours, and if you can't, you want to check the podcast out every day. But certainly, you've heard Stephanie crow about her Meta glasses. That as she's walking down the street, she can be filming you,
recording
talking to you, recording you. She can be doing her AI research into you. It creeps me out a little bit to think that Stephanie could be walking down the street and then, you know, doing her research there with her Meta glasses. Well, now, apparently there's a new app that will warn you if someone nearby has smart glasses.
Oh.
Did you see that?
Interesting.
Yep. And it sort of makes sense to me.
I mean, they're pretty obvious. They've got cameras in the frames. And I think if I actually have the video on, it like lights up red. So if someone's wearing sunglasses that clearly have a camera in them but
now wait, whoa there, Stephanie. You ladies don't like to be objectified and have us stare at you. So I'm not going to be looking at your face and going, oh yeah, I'm not going to gawk at your glasses to see if you've got a little button on it that's your camera. I don't want to do that because I don't want to be gawking.
You're worried about the glasses, even though everyone has a camera in their hand at all times and can press record it.
But I know if you're walking down the street recording me with your camera.
Not necessarily, because I mean, maybe I just need the audio, so I've got it in my pocket and it's turned on recording.
I'm talking camera.
You don't know how many hours of recording I have of you, Randy.
It's called Nearby Glasses. It's developed in response to media coverage outlining how glasses like Meta's Ray-Bans have been used to film people without their consent. There.
This sounds very European. I think they're fun for travel. That's what I mean. I know. I don't use them professionally.
Apparently there's a unique Bluetooth signal that the glasses give off, and that's what this is detecting.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Interesting. Well,
I didn't know that.
And I mean, you can take pictures. You can ask it questions. I don't really do that. But I mean, when you're skiing, it's really fun. You can video when you're like, I've taken it to like a theme park. I took it down to Silver Dollar City and wore the glasses on a ride and got the kids' reactions, right? So, I'm a little bit worried about dropping my phone when I'm skiing or on a lift or on a ride. But the glasses you can usually wear and capture some fun moments you wouldn't otherwise be able to get. I also I think for women, it's a safety issue for me.
Oh, yeah.
In that when I'm running or walking and I'm outside, I don't like to have my noise canceling headphones. I think that's unsafe, especially if I'm by myself. So they have, directional audio. Mm-hmm. So I can listen to podcasts or music with the glasses on, but I can also hear what's going on around me.
Gives you ambient. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you're taking a picture, do you have to touch your glasses, or are you just talking to yourself like like you're schizophrenic?
I want to say you can talk to them, but there's a button on the frames.
You can use both. You can say, "Hey, Meta, record this person," or start recording, or whatever. Yeah. Stephanie, I think you and me differ on the use of the glasses because I do it to record crazy crap that I do, if I want to use an insane pickup line or something. I've used it for that before. There's.
Yeah.
Before or after you're throwing up.
So you archive that, and then when do you review it later to see how effective the pickup line was, or what?
No, to show buddies. I mean, usually they don't believe me.
Since 10 hours of my day is spent behind a computer doing legal research, I don't think people are very interested in that. Most of my life is boring, probably compared to Drake. I could take a lot of photos from behind a computer inside my office.
Well,
no, don't sell yourself short, Stephanie. You live a pretty exciting life. I feel like you're doing something new every single week.
Because that's what I post on Instagram. Because it's few.
Well, you got to go do it to post it on Instagram.
Far
You're still
between.
doing it.
Most of my days are very boring.
Smart glasses. That sparks some privacy concerns, but forget about it. If anyone thinks they're private anymore in this world, you got to be kidding me. Everyone, Google, big tech, they all know about you. The government knows about. Speaking about the government know about you.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's not Frost My Buns Friday. Nolan's coming up. Gary's coming up at 9:08, 9:05. I sent in the papers the other day. What do you own? When did you own it? Do you own anything new?
Do you have a goat?
Show me the papers. I want
How
to
many
know.
chickens?
I'm from the government, and I need to know. I hate the property tax declaration.
But they just take your word for it too, which is weird, right?
Until they don't.
Well, I don't think people are actually out there counting their cows and chickens, are they?
Supposed to. I used to report the horse. Cat toy the horse. My domesticated animal.
RVs, boats, motorcycles. You name
I have
it.
a covered trailer that I have to report every year.
And it gets silly. I mean, what if you've got some defunct, small tractor that doesn't work and you haven't worked on it and you won't work on it, but it's sitting in your barn? I mean, they take the year and they just apply some generic value to it. That's why the sales tax is the way to go. When you pay a sales tax, they don't know much about you. They just know that the vendor pays the sales tax.
I mean, they know that you just bought an
report-
$80,000 SUV.
I don't think that should be it. The vendor should just say, I sold an $80,000 SUV, and it's none of your darn business, government, to know who it was that bought it, but here's the tax. Why does the government have to know about what we do and buy and earn, for that matter? Why? Oh, income tax. Boy, this is no wonder Lenten happens during this tax season, right? Oh, my God.
It's because you don't have a prayer.
All right. We'll come back and wrap it up with leftovers.
It's Wake Up Missouri.
Time to talk about some leftover topics that we haven't been able to get to yet. John, what do you have on your leftover plate?
Well, folks, city officials in Taos in Cole County are taking another serious look at speed limits on Route M there and some crosswalks, and that's after a man was killed and a woman badly injured on Christmas Eve in Taos as they were showing up, presumably, for the Christmas Eve vigil mass at night. And now the mayor of Taos, who's Ron Walker, who's a retired highway patrol command officer, says, they're taking a hard look at their crosswalks and the speeds going through there. And also it'd be interesting to see what happens in Taos in Cole County.
Yeah, man, oh boy, you hear those stories and you go, gosh, darn. No matter what we do, there's always safety hazards around, isn't there? Stephanie, what do you have?
Yep. We've been talking this morning a little bit about data centers on the heels of Trump's comments last night, and it comes as no surprise, but it's official now. There was a new Pew Research Center survey that says more than half of U.S. teens, 54%, are using AI chatbots to get help with their schoolwork. And even more than that, almost 60% think that people are using AI to cheat regularly.
Drake, do you have any thoughts about this? Taking the fifth?
My mom is a professor.
Yeah.
I hear secondhand stories about this, and wow, are some kids just stupid? Because, I mean, you'll see people that, like, whatever Stephanie, you'll know this, and maybe you will too, Randy. Whenever you type in a prompt, it's like, yes, I can get you a list of whatever, and then it answers your question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there have been some kids who have copied and pasted that part in as well with the rest of it. So, I mean, just some kids, it's not great.
Nothing new under the sun. When the internet first arrived, everybody said there won't be a kid who will ever write a theme paper again. And that's not the case.
Well, I miss back in the day when you could cheat by writing your answers in really crazy parts, like hiding it in your pen. Or I think the best one I heard was where you write it on your thigh, like where you have to pull down your pants a little bit because the teacher can't really call you out for that. I mean, what are they going to do?
God. But Stephanie, haven't you said that some places are going to, who said it, that they're going to just paper and pen exams, write a 3-paragraph, answer to this question so that people can't cheat.
There's a piece of legislation at the State House to require elementary kids, I think the legislation says, to spend up to 70% of their time offline using a pencil and paper.
There you go.
How much of your time do you spend away from a screen at your workday?
Yeah,
fair amount. Point. I like to print out when a patient comes in. They fill out their little history thing, and then an update if it's not their first visit. I like to print that out and write on it because when I'm trying to, I don't like to type in front of a patient.
There's something about seeing things in print.
Yeah, it's weird.
I still do. I kill a lot of trees.
Yeah.
But
you've got this high tech thing where it looks like
my Remarkable.
You're writing, but it's
like a paper
tablet.
pad.
Yeah.
It's I really like that. But when I'm reviewing my own writing, briefs and other things, I always print a hard copy for the editing because I think you see things in print that you wouldn't see on the screen.
You think you're editing and reviewing and proofreading something on the screen, and you're like, "Yep, that's good," and then you print it out, and you're like, "What the heck? How did I miss that?" It's bizarre.
Yep.
So even if you grew up with that, you still have that issue. It's a platformic thing. It's not.
I think so. Maybe kids who grew up with screens all the time will say something different, but I still like to see things in print.
Same with you, Drake?
I mean, yeah, I print out every ad script that I do. I mean, everything that I like to have to read.
Yeah.
I mean, it's print or nothing.
And I don't know that I've got a Kindle, but I don't know. I just prefer reading a book.
We tried the news software a while. It's been a number of years.
Yeah.
But it was a scrolling software, and you had your stories in there, and you actually had the sound bites you could mouse and click it to make it fire. It was not user-friendly.
No. Huh.
Might be now.
Good old-fashioned paper and pencil or typewriter. Maybe you need a Selectric. I got one in the basement. We'll see you tomorrow on Wake Up Missouri.
Bye.